The History of Sound is a short story by Ben Shattuck that has now been adapted into an upcoming feature film directed by Oliver Hermanus, starring Josh O'Connor and Paul Mescal. The film will have its world premiere at the 2025 Cannes Film Festival, where it's nominated for the Palme d'Or alongside new films by Wes Anderson, The Phoenician Scheme, Ari Aster, Eddington, and Kelly Reichardt, The Mastermind, which also features Josh O'Connor. With the release approaching and anticipation building, I wanted to revisit the short story it's adapted from, to explore its themes and why this tender story is especially suited for a film adaptation. If you're interested in reading the full short story, it's available in Shattuck's collection, also titled The History of Sound. But for now, here's a brief summary of the tale, which contains no major spoilers. Lionel Worthing, an aging musicologist living in 1980s Cambridge, receives a box of old wax phonograph cylinders. He begins to recall the summer of 1919, where he was a young voice student at the New England Conservatory and joined David White, a charismatic composition student, on a journey through rural Maine to collect American folk songs. Throughout their trip, Lionel and David fall into a quiet, profound intimacy, one built on shared songs, long walks, and unspoken longing. Decades later, Lionel reflects on that brief and defining chapter of his life. Like many great short stories, Shattuck's tale is layered with quiet tension and poetic restraint. It doesn't rely on plot twists or dramatic revelations, but on memory, sensory detail, and silence. It's deeply interior, a story about what remains after love, and what slips through our fingers, even as we try to hold on. The title itself sets the tone. On the surface, The History of Sound sounds like an academic paper, the kind of name you might find on a musicology thesis or a fieldwork study on folk music. Hint, hint. But the irony is that what we're reading is anything but objective. This isn't the history of sound as an institution. It's the history of a feeling, a moment, like a love or a summer. It's Lionel's personal archive disguised as an official one. Over the course of the story, Lionel comes to understand that the phonograph cylinders he and David used to preserve American folk songs also saved only a small fragment of their fleeting relationship. And it's these recordings that allow Lionel to reflect on what can never truly be captured. The story quietly centers two of its most resonant themes, memory and sound. For Lionel, memory isn't purely visual, it's auditory. The sound of a moment holds the emotion of the memory. The phonograph cylinders themselves become a metaphor for memory, fragile and selective. They frame a central question that the story returns to again and again. What gets captured, and what is inevitably left behind? This idea is heightened by Lionel's synesthesia, a neurological phenomenon where one sense triggers another. In his case, sounds have color, shape, and even taste. A D note tastes like milk. A perfect C is like sugary cherries. Music isn't just something Lionel hears, it's something he inhabits. This deepens the story's emotional texture, reminding us that sound is never just sound. It's always tied to the body, to feeling, and to memory. For Lionel and David, music becomes a language of intimacy. They're both musicians, Lionel a singer and David a composer, and their shared love of folk music becomes a bridge between them when words fall short. Music is central to their relationship, but this has a bittersweet flip side, because sound is transient. It passes through the air, then disappears. Sounds, unlike images, exist alongside time and are inherently ephemeral. We can stare at a photograph for as long as we like, but a sound only exists in the instant it's heard. The phonograph cylinders attempt to bottle those moments in time, but of course, they couldn't hold everything. Lionel often points out that the recordings often missed the most meaningful parts. The story constantly draws attention to what's missing from the archive, that the real history of sound isn't just the songs that got recorded, but the ambient noises and silences that were never preserved. This incompleteness is part of what makes the tale so quietly devastating. The best parts of Lionel and David's love, like napping together in a blueberry field or singing under the stars, aren't preserved on any cylinder. There's no true way to bottle a life or a love in its entirety. All of these qualities, the rich soundscapes, the silences, the attention to fleeting moments, make the history of sound feel uniquely suited for the screen. Shattuck crafted a story that already reads like cinema. It's full of sensory impressions and unspoken emotion, the kind of storytelling that invites the camera to linger and listen. So it's fitting that this story is being adapted into a film. And it's fitting too that it's found a home with MUBI. MUBI isn't just a distributor, it's also a curator. And I know that sounds like one of those classic ads from MUBI that many content creators on YouTube get, but I am in no way sponsored by MUBI. I'm just familiar with their catalog, and their catalog is full of quiet, emotionally rich films that trust the viewer to sit in its stillness and feel. MUBI's interests in the history of sound signals that the adaptation hasn't been flattened into a conventional period romance. It's a reassuring sign, especially with director Oliver Hermanus at the helm. His involvement makes me even more confident that the film will retain the story's delicate soul. Hermanus is known for crafting films that explore the complexities of queer identity with precision and care. His notable works include Beauty from 2011, which won the Queer Palm at Cannes for its unflinching portrayal of repressed desire. His film Mafi in 2019 examines forbidden queer love under the harsh, hyper-masculine conditions of the South African military. And Living, released in 2022, is a delicate period drama that showcases Hermanus's remarkable control over visual tone and emotional pacing. He knows how to let a moment breathe, how to build meaning in what's left unsaid. It also matters that Hermanus is a gay filmmaker. That perspective brings a lived authenticity to the history of sound, a story that depends so much on what it meant and still means to love quietly. His sensitivity to queer longing and memory should ensure that this adaptation is held not just with artistic integrity, but with emotional truth. Personally, as a queer filmmaker myself, I find Hermanus' career deeply inspiring. Watching someone like him navigate the industry with such care, craft, and conviction reminds me that our stories don't have to be shout to be heard. They just have to be true in their emotion. It's a reminder I carry into my own work. Even the quietest, most tender queer narratives can leave a lasting echo. The history of sound is ultimately a story about what we can preserve and what we inevitably lose. The songs, the voices, the touches that slip through time. It's about how memory and love are carried not just in grand gestures, but in the quiet, fleeting moments that don't leave a mark except on our hearts. That's why I'm so excited for the film adaptation. With MUBI's careful curation and Oliver Hermanus' deeply sensitive direction, there is every reason to believe the film will honor the tenderness and aching beauty of Shattuck's original story. I can't wait to see the history of sound brought to life, not just as a story about queer love, but as a meditation on the music we make of our own lives, even knowing it will eventually fade.